I'm Lauren Ellis. I'm Senior VFX Producer at Industrial Light and Magic, ILM. And the journey to that point has been a long one, but super fruitful to say the least. I started out, visual effects is actually my second career path. I started out in advertising. I was an art producer over there, and it was in Atlanta. I worked for BBDO Atlanta that I was exposed to a bunch of different career paths that were creative, and me being a creative kid. It was the first time I was exposed to people who were illustrators and animators and all these other things. And I thought, whoa, I can have a lucrative creative career. That's crazy. So I was inspired to go back to school for animation. And while I was there, I learned fairly quickly that the traditional artist that I was, like, I'm good with pen and paper or charcoal or painting, doesn't always translate to 3D space. So I learned pretty quickly that I was not going to be a great animator. And I was brokenhearted because here I am spending these thousands of dollars to, try to become this animator. And I ended up going to one of the student advisors who told me to take a course in history of animation and visual effects. And up until that point, this is my second semester now. No, third semester. Up until that point, I had no idea what visual effects was. I was there for animation. And I got exposed to animation through a featurette on Jurassic Park. And on that featurette popped up some information about the different titles involved. And one of them said visual effects producer. So I went to my instructor after that. I was like, what is that? I've never heard of that. What is that? He's like, oh, let's talk about visual effects. And from there, I pivoted entirely away from animation and went into visual effects from a compositing standpoint, because I really like the idea of being the last to touch a shot. So, after that, I started getting into the indie circuit. I was compositing and coordinating and doing whatever needed to be done to keep my lights on and all that good stuff. And the film that really kicked it off for me in the indie circuit that performed the way you would hope an indie would perform was Fruitvale Station. And from there, it was just constant work after that because it just did so well. So this was pretty close to around the rhythm and hues stuff that was going on, and you kind of just had to get in where you could fit in. And so I wasn't compositing as much. It was much harder to get those kinds of jobs because you were up against people who've been doing it. They invented it, like you're up against these people. So it was much harder to get those junior roles. And so I found myself coordinating a lot more. And I realized that when I was art producing and advertising, I just didn't like advertising, but I actually did like producing in visual effects. So when I was making that pivot, because there were no compositing jobs that I was able to get into outside of stereo work, which is fine, but I didn't really want to do stereo. I started to coordinate more, and I started just going along that track and learning from as many people as possible until I became a visual effects producer and have been producing ever since. So it's been a lot of long nights, a lot of, fun projects, a lot of some of them not so great, but overall, I've just been collecting mentors along the way, taking my hits when I needed to on every project and just kept going until one day ILM wanted me and I was shocked, and here we are. The work, like and this may go into, what I would say to my younger self. I remember this one particular time when I was a coordinator and I was on my first studio film. Like before this, it was all indie, and this was my first studio film for Sony. And we were working on this one shot where there was these aliens, and I watched those aliens go from a concept on a page to like the rigs to the textures and all the things. And then this one particular day, I think it was 3 months later, we've been working on these aliens. And I'm running the dailies. I pop up the shot so we can review it. And without realizing where I was in the moment, I went, whoa. Because that was the first time in the 3 months working on those aliens that they looked like they were in that shot. And I was like, this is cool. We're about to make people believe that those aliens are in that shot. And everybody turned around and looked at me, and I was like, oh, I guess I shouldn't have said anything. But that excitement for what we do, that's what inspires me, because there's so many artists that work so hard to create that stuff that it inspires me to see it all come to light. That and just the new wave of folks that are coming up that know about visual effects. I didn't know about it until I was an adult. I was at, like I said, second career path is when I found out about visual effects. And I'm excited. What inspires me now is to shorten that loop for those younger creative folks, for when they get to find out about visual effects. So I like to talk about it as much as possible to elementary age kids, middle school kids, high school kids, and just seeing them light up like, oh, I didn't know if I draw really well or I paint really well, but there's a career for that. I could be a napkin. You know what? I had no idea. I could be an art department and all these things. So the future inspires me, and then the work itself, watching it go from concept to that alien is in that freaking shot is inspiring. Yeah. I think I would say a few things to my younger self. I think the first thing is to not delay my voice. I think I spent a lot of time in absolute reverence of everybody that came before me, rightfully so. Like, you're dealing with these juggernauts like yourself, Audria. And it's like, I spent so much time in that space that you kind of aren't convinced that you have a perspective to offer the room. So it took me a while to believe that if I've worked for this and I am helping to tell this story of what it is we're doing. So in helping to tell that story, speak up, shine your light. Don't wait, just do it now. Because, in the beginning, as you might only have 6 months to be able to use your voice on this project, or you might only have a 3-month gig or whatever it is. So in the 3 months, make it profound. So I would definitely say that to myself, if, my younger self, don't delay your voice. Don't delay your light. If you've got something meaningful to add to the room, add it today, not tomorrow, today. I also say make it bigger than you. It's not just about what career moves are the right career moves. Pick, if you have the opportunity to choose something you really means something to you, choose something that has a good team attached to it or whatever. It's not just about what you can attach yourself to make yourself bigger, better. It's not about that. It's about the meaning behind the project, what it brings to you, and then what it can do for somebody else. Meaning, if you have the opportunity to bring somebody on who doesn't have the experience necessarily, but could really benefit from that role, do it. Make it more than just you going up the ladder to get to where you want to go. Bring people with you and educate as many people as possible. And then just lastly, have fun. I think we're making movies for a living. This is some cool shit. Like, we're making movies for a living. So, have fun. Sometimes it gets serious. You're dealing with millions of dollars. I get it. But still, we're making movies. We get to stick people in dark rooms watching a big screen and having somebody tell them a story for 90 minutes. We get to do that. So have a good time while you do it. Don't, and take the vacation every now and then. You don't have to sleep under your desk to get it done. Yeah.